I am Salah Nefeily, Professor of English Literature at the Department of English, Literature and Language, Faculty of Language and Translation at Azhar University. And today is 28th of November 2015. Okay. Today we are going just to speak about poetry. What is poetry? You know, there are so many definitions of poetry, and as we did with novels and earlier lecture, we are going to pick the most beautiful, or the most important, or the most accurate, and the most representative. And this definition is given by Thomas Carlyle, who wonderfully and briefly defined poetry as musical thought. Musical thought. Wow, this is a very brief definition, but it's so important because it sums up the main, or the two main functions of poetry. The first function is dulce and utile, or utile and dulce. These are two Latin words given by Horace, the Roman critic, who defined the function of poetry as utile and dulce. Utile is to teach, to give us something beneficial, and dulce is to give us something pleasant. Okay, so the poetry pleases us and teaches us. Okay, as a matter of fact, we need this kind of poetry nowadays for our life. Okay. Because literature does not only please us, because there are so many unpleasant pleasing things. Unpleasant pleasing things. Okay? And teaching is not functional unless it is pleasing. So the two of them complement each other. You only accept the advice when it is in a pleasant form. But you reject the advice when it is in a repelling form. So poetry is most effective when it has these two elements. So many other writers, like Arnold, said that poetry teaches us something because he belongs to this moralist school. And some others said that, like Shelley, and the Romantics, they said that it is an overflow, powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. So this definition pleases us, makes us feel so pleased and so happy. But happiness should relate to spirituality. And when it is associated only with the body, it is comfort. But poetry aspires at happiness. So with this in mind, we say that we need the two. It's musical, which pleases us, but it is also thought. So it has to combine the two. It has to correct our behavior and attitude. Okay? And man as a rhythmic being. You know, let me start with the individual person. We as human beings are rhythmic beings. As children, are we, I'm going to say, am I a rhythmic being even in childhood? No, not really, but even earlier than that. Earlier than that. We are rhythmic beings. Why? Because there is something that beats there all the time. It is the mother's heart. It's the mother's heart. Okay? We get used to this rhythm. That's why when we are born, we cry. Why? Because we miss something. We miss the heartbeats of the mother. We miss the darkness inside. Okay? It's so symbolic. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us symbolism in so many different ways. Anyway, we get used to this rhythm. And that's why when we are babies, we feel better. When we return to this stage, you notice that the mother would repeat the rhythm of the heart when she says, oh, 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 oh. You notice that in Egypt, okay? You notice that. Then the baby will start to stop crying because he gets used to the heartbeats of the mother. So even before we are born, okay, we are used and accustomed to this rhythm. And when we grow up and we become like 5, 6 years old, okay, and you play at home, and then this young boy, you know this with your younger brother, hears something. Someone comes and he just sits there and pretends that he's reading his class or his lesson. Why did he do that? Whereas when someone else comes, someone like that, he doesn't move. He just goes on playing. Because he knows that this is the rhythm of the Father's steps. This is the rhythm of the Father's steps. He stops playing and he starts work. Okay? Because he knows and he observes that the Father is here. He heard the steps of the Father coming up the stairs. And even before he knocks, he's on his desk and working his homework, finishing his homework. We know that. Okay? And when we grow up, we know that we are rhythmic beings. And culturally speaking, you know, we learn rhythm from the birds. We learn rhythm from animals, from the monkeys. You know that in earlier stages in human history, monkeys used to produce some kind of specific rhythm associated with specific events. When there is danger, they produce some kind of a specific rhythm, and when there is plenty of food, they make some kind of rhythmic manifestations. Okay, so we started to learn from animals. Okay, so we are rhythmic beings. Okay, and then if we are going to move to the components of poetry, you know, like all other forms of literature, the language is the most important element of a work of art. First, we can speak about the sound. And in poetry, which is a very condensed form of language, it's very condensed. It's even condensed, more condensed than a short story, because in a poem you have to analyze every sound. Okay? And because you can understand the theme of the poem through the sounds of the poem. You can just speak to your younger brother, 5-year-old brother, and just tell him these few lines. One day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed away. Again I wrote it with a second hand, but came the tide and made my pains his prey. Vain man, said she, that dost in vain say, a mortal thing so to immortalize, not so would I, that baser things devise. And you tell me, what kind of poem is that? Is the happy poem, or is it a sad poem? It will say, oh, it sounds like a sad thing. It's something sad, even if he doesn't understand poetry, if he doesn't know the word. Why? Because he got this message through the ears. Dee, one day wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and walked away. Okay? So then some sounds have specific relationships, not connotations, because it's not connotation in the sound itself, but some specific relationships, like the D sound. The D sound is a sad sound. Why? You know that it's associated with die. Unlike the sound K. The sound K is so strong, that's why it fits in killing, in the king, the queen. Hatta in Arabic, in Arabic you have the word malik. So some sounds fit specific words of strength, and some others fit the specific words of sadness. Some other sounds are happy sounds like that. Sibilant sounds. Sibilant sounds are the sa, sha, and ja. Why that D sound is a sad sound? Why is that M sound, sound? Why are these sounds sad sounds? Why? Because they are associated with weakness. Why? Because we have, because you studied phonetics, and you know that the stop sounds are strong sounds, because the bilingual P requires that strong, that the articulator and the point of articulation to touch and to press the airstream, the puff getting out of that of the two lips, P, T, K. So these sounds are so strong. So they fit the lungs like strong, not the word strong, S-T-R, strong, okay? S-T, strike, stop, kill. These are stop sounds which give this impression. Whereas the sad sound, like why, you know, when you go to a hospital or something, you know that so many of the sick people just don't say shh. No, they say Why? Because they are too weak to produce this sound. Why? Why? Because the airstream comes so unconstructed, it comes so smoothly out of the lungs and again through the noses, out the nose cavity. Okay, you notice that it comes so smoothly and slowly without any stoppage. There is no articulation in front of articulation with the M at the end. Why? Because he is too weak to use his points of articulation and the articulators. So we fit that, we know that sound M and B also are sad sounds, where other sibilants are happy sounds. You notice this in the word sparrow, horse, in contrast with the word duck. We know how the duck walks, right? It's just like that. It's so slow, not like the sparrow which is so brisk, okay? So we know that there is that strong association between the sound and the meaning of it. Usually this is studied in onomatopoeia, which records the relationship between the sound and the meaning. We have the foot. The foot is a combination of 2 or 3 syllables. But the most important and the most commonly used foot is the iambic, where we have 2 in each foot. We have 2 syllables. The first is weak, and the second is strong. Like one day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed it away. Okay? that each foot consists of two cells. The first is weak and the second is strong. Some people call it short and long. Some others say stressed or unstressed and stressed. Well, they are the same connotations, okay? So we have the trocaic, which is the opposite of the iambic. Iambic foot is a combination of two cells. The first is weak, the second is strong. But the trocaic is the opposite. We have the first is also a combination of two cells. The first is strong and the second is weak. Okay? And then we have the word. The word which, you notice that some words express happiness and some others express sadness. And you should be aware of that. When some of you try to write poetry and some others do write poetry. And in poetry you have to very accurate in the choice of the word. Okay? And then you have the line. The line in poetry, there are different kinds of lines. Like it depends on the meter. The meter is the specific form of the number of the feet in a line. You can have a monometer in which each line consists of just one foot. You have demeter, which each line consists of 2 feet. Trimeter, when each line consists of 3 feet. Tetrameter, when each line consists of 4 feet. Pentameter, and so on, until you reach the 8. Okay? So these words make them. But remember, that in poetry, you are concerned with the sounds pronounced, not with the letters. You have nothing to do with the letters, okay? And then the last one is the stanza. In the stanza, there are different forms of stanzas, okay? And in the past, we used to have some kind of specific forms of stanzas, like the sonnet. The sonnet, for example, will have different forms. It is 14 lines, but it has different stanza forms. Okay? Like that Shakespeare, for example, runs A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Okay? 4, 4, 4, and a couplet. Each 4, each stanza of the 4 lines is called a quatrain. So in this Shakespearean form, we have quatrain, we have quatrain, we have quatrain. And the first 8 lines are called octave, and the last 6 are called sisters. This is that Shakespeare. There are some other where we have octave and a sisters, but the sisters consists of a tercet and a tercet. A tercet is a combination of 3 lines and 3 lines. And there have to be some kind of relationship between the content and the form. Like if we think of Shakespeare's stanza form, A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G, you will notice that there is a kind of separation between A, B, A, B. Why don't we have A, B, B, C, C, D, D in couplets? Why? Because he usually speaks about love poems. And in love poems, we have some kind of conflicts or some kind of discord between the lovers. Not conflict, but sometimes disagreement between lovers. disagreement, until at the very end we have the GG, which is a unification, because love usually ends in unification of the lovers. Okay, I want to say that poetry is a reflection of society. Poetry as a reflection of society. You will notice that in the Shakespearean period, you notice that it was an age of formalism, an age of traditions, an age of conventions. That's why at that time writers used to stick to a specific form, like Spring by Thomas Nash. You have these wonderful lines when you have spring, the sweet spring, the leaves pleasant, the blooms, each thing, the maids dance in the rain. You lost this kind of specific form that they stick to. But in the modern age, it's not an age of formality. You know, you have your t-shirt, but at that time, you can't go to a theater unless you are very well dressed and informed. So, the literature, but specifically poetry, needs to fit, to be in accordance with the culture. Okay, whereas in the modern age, you know, like you have this line. April is the cruelest month of breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, steering down roots out of forgetful snow. Winter kept us warm. There is no conventional form. Why? Because our age is not an age of convention. There is no respect of the other, and so we don't respect the rules put by the others. You notice that there is this lack of unity in the great poem like The Wasteland. For example, Winter Kept Us Warm. Okay, there is no connection between the sentences. Why? Because there is no connection between us at home. You know, when you are living with your brothers and sisters, you probably are not connected. Each of you will be having his or her laptop or iPad or tab or whatever, you know these days much more than anything. Okay, so we live in a world of disconnection, and this idea is reflected also in the poems. So poetry is a reflection of society, as is the case with literature, because literature is the mirror of society. You notice that this is also the case with emotion, that if you start with the Elizabethan age, you notice that the emotion is so high, but then we have the Jacobean, in which emotion was dying, because it's an age of science. In the Elizabethan age, we have so wonderful emotions, love. Almost, I would say, 85% of the poems at that time were about love. Whereas in the Jacobean era, we have the metaphysical poems. They don't know how to love. They have no emotion. Why? Because it is the age of reason. It's the age of science. We have John Donne, who wrote his poem, The Flea. The Flea, it's about love. But think of that. He speaks about love in a poem entitled The Flea. Disgusting, isn't it? Because he says that this insect comes to you and sucks your blood, and then it comes to me and sucks my blood, and our two bloods mingle. So this body of the flea is our wedding bed. Is our wedding bed. Okay? High emotion of the Elizabethans, low emotion of the Jacobean, the age of reason, and then high emotion of the Romantics. They loved nature. They were religious in their own way. They are religious in their own way. They reach God through the love of nature. They glorify nature. They hate books They don't like books because we have this man, up, my friend, and quit your books. Up, my friend, and quit your books. I hope not many of you just would not like this line. They say, let nature be your teacher. Let nature, forget about books. Let nature be your teacher. Okay, so here we have, again, high emotional demand. You notice that there is this sense of imbalance in the ages of reason. Okay, and after the Romantics, we have the Victorian and then the modern age in which we have a lack of emotion. Okay, there is no emotion between the sentences of the poem. There is no emotion between, there is no link between the sentences of the lines of the poems. Okay, but just think of those people who said that, and daisies kiss our feet. To think of how loving they are. They glorify God through the love of His creation. Okay, so actually, to wrap up, I should say that poetry teaches us how to balance, how to achieve this balance between our spirits and our bodies, between the dulce and the utile. The dulce is the beauty, and the utile is the utility, the usefulness. So poetry should teach us as well as please us. Okay, as Horace thousands of years ago when he said that utility and dulce as a reference to the function of poetry from that time, and it is still functioning. Because poets are not like scientists. Scientists are, or science is changing. Science is, what science discovers today is very likely that it's going to be refuted tomorrow. They spoke about aspirin, and they said it's good, and then they said it's bad. Oh, sorry, we were mistaken. It is good, okay. But whereas we feel for each other what Adam and Eve felt for each other, long time ago. So we need to achieve this balance, to feel happy, to fulfill the spirit. You need to enjoy that, to fulfill your spirit as well as your body, to avoid what's happening in Denmark, where we have the highest standard of living, and at the same time they have the highest rate of suicide. Okay, so it is the balanced life. Let not be the victims of this material mechanized culture. Let's stand by the morals of our religion. Let's stand by the morals of the spirit, the morals of all religions, the morals of love, the morals of beauty, the morals, and best of luck. Shukran.